The sun was setting over the sleepy town of Willow Creek, painting the sky with hues of amber and lavender. Alice Munro, a woman in her early 30s with cascading auburn hair and emerald eyes, stood by the window of her modest suburban home. She clutched a steaming cup of chamomile tea, her thoughts drifting to the man she was about to marry. William Will Carter was everything she had ever dreamed of. Kind, dependable, and deeply in love with her. Yet, a shadow loomed over Alice's happiness, one she had buried years ago. Will, a ruggedly handsome man with deep-set blue eyes and a boyish grin, was busy in the kitchen, preparing dinner. He hummed a tune under his breath, oblivious to the storm brewing in Alice's mind. They had met 2 years ago at a charity event and had been inseparable ever since. But as their wedding day approached, Alice couldn't shake the unease that clung to her like a second skin. The unease became palpable one crisp autumn morning when Alice received a letter in her mailbox. The envelope was unmarked, and the handwriting was unfamiliar. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a chilling message. "You can't build a future on lies. Tell him before I do." Alice's heart raced. She reread the note, her hands trembling. Her mind immediately flashed back to a man from her past. Thomas Grayson. A charismatic, enigmatic figure, Thomas had once been the center of Alice's world. Their relationship had ended in betrayal, and Alice had walked away, determined to leave the wreckage behind. But had Thomas resurfaced to upend her life once more? Desperate for answers, Alice tried to call Thomas, but his number was no longer in service. Panic set in. She knew she couldn't ignore the threat. That night, as Will sat across from her at the dinner table, talking about wedding arrangements, Alice could barely meet his eyes. Over the next few weeks, Alice became withdrawn. She started to notice subtle changes around her, a shadowy figure watching her from across the street, a car that seemed to follow her as she drove to work. The paranoia was suffocating. One evening, Will confronted her. "Alice, what's going on? You've been distant, distracted. If something's bothering you, you can tell me." Alice hesitated, her chest tightening with fear. She wanted to tell him everything but couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Instead, she forced a smile and said, "I'm just stressed about the wedding." "It's nothing." Will didn't look convinced, but he let it go. "You're my world, Alice. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." His words only deepened her guilt. The day of reckoning arrived when Alice received another letter. This time, it included a photograph. It was a candid shot of Alice and Thomas, taken during their passionate but tumultuous affair. The caption scrawled on the back read, "Secrets have a way of coming out." Alice's worst fear materialized later that evening when Will found the photograph. She had hidden it in her desk drawer, but he stumbled upon it while looking for a pen. His face darkened as he held the picture up. "Who is this?" Will's voice was calm, but his eyes were stormy. Alice's throat went dry. "Will, I can explain." "Then explain," he said, his tone colder now. Alice took a deep breath and told him everything. She recounted her relationship with Thomas, the betrayal, and how she had buried it all to start anew. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded for Will's understanding. When she finished, Will was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "You should have told me. I thought we had no secrets between us." "I was scared," Alice whispered. "Scared of losing you." "And now?" Will asked, his voice cracking. "I'm still scared," she admitted. As Alice and Will tried to navigate the fallout, the person behind the letters escalated their game. One evening, Will received an anonymous email containing more incriminating photos and a recording of a heated argument between Alice and Thomas. The email's subject line read, "Are you sure you know who you're marrying?" Will confronted Alice again, his trust eroding with each revelation. "How many more secrets are there, Alice?" Alice broke down. "None. I swear. I don't know who's doing this, but it has to be Thomas. Determined to confront the issue head-on, Will and Alice hired a private investigator. Within days, the investigator uncovered the truth. Thomas had hired someone to dig into Alice's life and disrupt her happiness. He couldn't stand the idea of her moving on without him. With this revelation, Will faced a choice. He could walk away from Alice and the chaos of her past, or he could stay and fight for their future. One evening, he took Alice to the place where he had first proposed to her, a serene lakeside pier bathed in moonlight. "Alice," he began, taking her hands in his. "I've been angry, hurt, and confused. But through it all, one thing hasn't changed. I love you. Your past doesn't define you. What matters is the life we build together." Tears streamed down Alice's face as she nodded. "I love you too, Will. More than anything." With Thomas exposed, Alice and Will obtained a restraining order against him and started attending couples therapy to rebuild their trust. It wasn't easy, but they were committed to making it work. Their wedding, delayed but not cancelled, became a symbol of their resilience. On a crisp spring afternoon, under a canopy of blooming cherry blossoms, Alice and Will exchanged vows. They promised not just to love each other but to face life's shadows together, no matter how dark they might be. As they shared their first kiss as husband and wife, Alice felt a weight lift from her soul. The shadows of the past no longer held her captive. She had found her light in Will, and together, they would create a future untarnished by secrets.